This one.
Oh.
Down. Down. You want to do the intro for this one?
Sure. What's going on, everybody? My name's
Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. Oh, it's bittersweet this day, isn't it?
It is.
Welcome back to the K-Drama Club. This is our segment where we talk about a K-drama that we're watching on Netflix called Startup. And this is the final episode of Startup. We just finished, literally just finished watching it. And we want to get the raw reaction, but thank you for tuning in. If this is your first Nick and Joe video, thank you, welcome. Subscribe to the channel if you're into K-dramas or K-pop, because we've got lots of content all around that stuff. And also, now that this K-drama has wrapped up, we'll probably start watching a new K-drama and do a new season of the K-Drama Club. So stay tuned for that, make sure you're subscribed. If you've been watching with us, you know that we have had a lot of emotions during this K-drama. A lot of things have happened. It's been a long journey. And it all culminated in this episode today. And I would also like to note that we made a lot of good predictions in our last episode.
Yeah, we're upset that we didn't get the video
up before this episode.
Yeah, because now we can't prove that we made all these predictions correctly.
Yes.
But we got a lot right about what was going to happen in this episode.
Listen, my raw reaction is the whole episode, I felt like, okay, this is so satisfying, so many great things are happening, and then it ended, and I was just feeling lost and slightly disappointed.
Yeah, like I feel like they wrapped everything up-ish, but I still wish that I saw more.
Yes, a little more of the future. Like we were getting to the end, and it was like, okay, there's 10 minutes left, and then they did a bunch of flashbacks, and then...
And then it was over.
And then it was over.
Yeah.
And then they did one very quick flash forward to the future, which we see everybody's great success, but I don't know. Let's go through the episode. What should we talk about first?
Like everybody's ending and how we feel about it.
True.
Let's talk about the endings that were like satisfying.
Okay.
I am very happy with like Injae. I think Injae got so much in this episode that they like more in this episode than she has in most episodes.
For sure. But it's all been very gradually leading up to this point.
Yeah, up to this point. With Injae and then the whole family story with the grandmother and the mother and the two sisters, like all that was like, that whole thing was super like tear-jerking.
That was tear-jerking. You get the flashback of the grandmother because Injae announces that her adoption has been dissolved and she was ashamed to even come back to the family because of her last name, but now that that's taken care of, you know, and she's back with the grandmother, with her mother, with her sister, all in the same house, sitting at the same table. And then the grandmother has like this memory, this kind of vision of a time when they were younger and their father was still alive and them all right there. And she, even though she's like, can barely see, she says, I can see you all like so clearly. Yeah. That was the biggest tearjerker moment of the episode.
That episode. And then also the part where the grandma's talking to Chi Pyong and was like, don't get any lonelier.
Yes.
Like that part was also very, like emotional. So like,
and the thing is, the grandmother last episode, I believe, we did not see her a lot.
Yeah.
But this episode, like, we got a lot of the grandmother doing the grandmother thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, like, that whole family story was super satisfying, super happy ending.
Yes.
Like, it's great to see, like, that all come back together.
Yes.
And then we also obviously have Tosan with Taomi.
Yes.
So
they're in love.
They're very in love.
I don't feel like, you know, Chi Pyong was cheated out of something at the end of this, which I think is how they almost played it up. They played up the expectation for that. They played up the feud between Chi Pyong and Tosan. Like, you're supposed to be rooting for one or the other. For me, it was always clearly Tosan because Chi Pyong was not the one who wrote. He wrote the letters, but he was not really writing about himself. You know, it was never that kind of connection. I want to relitigate this. We got to see her fall in love with Tosan very gradually over the season, and it very much ramped up here at the end.
Yeah.
Even with the reveal of like the secret and all that. And I felt like that was very natural, and I'm very happy for them to have found love. I don't know. I felt satisfied by that.
Yeah, and I think that what happened throughout the show is that like Tosan and Chi Pyong had this rivalry between each other, but neither one of them ever really asked Taomi like what her real feelings were, and like she never gave her input either way. It just showed more moments of her with Tosan like being intimate.
True.
And not so much with Chi Pyong. But it was clear from the last episode that Chi Pyong recognized that, and that's why he never said anything, because he knew which way that was going. But Tosan still felt like inferior to Chi Pyong because he didn't have that history. True. So he needed Chi Pyong to like say like, hey, like you're like, how can you not see this?
Yeah.
To him, for him to realize. And then once he stopped feeling like he was like missing something, then he went for it and it just took off from there.
Right.
Because I think he just had to like accept it and go for it.
And like that whole like triangle, you know, we've got Tosan and Tommy. Obviously, they're in love. We see that they get married. That's really great. But then also, Tommy and Chi-Pyong have a moment where they have a straight up conversation about it. A conversation that I wish had happened like sooner.
Way sooner, yeah.
And she says, you know, oh, you really want a clean break, but they just kind of lay it all out.
Yeah.
Like they clear the air, and that felt satisfying. They didn't hug. That was not satisfying.
Yeah, 'cause I just think that he is like...
He's not like that.
Yeah, and also he's very like trying to protect himself.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And then similarly, when it comes time for, you know, to make an investment in Tommy's company, the CEO of Sandbox puts it on Chi-Pyong to go and like present the investment idea. And he goes and presents it to Tosan first. And at first it's like a very kind of like, it's Chi-Pyong being like, listen, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do anything with you. But he cannot resist when asked to give his honest like business opinion, and he says like, I would be a fool basically to not do this investment. And then, but that it's less about business in that moment and more about those two just like making amends, like laying it all out there, saying like, we can work together, we can be fine together. They awkwardly shake hands, but then they also hug and kind of laugh a little bit. Yeah. And of course, we see them in the future still working together in the flash forward. So that's all on good terms. That's great. We should talk about Chi-Pyong's ending for sure.
I'm a little disappointed that he didn't get more of like an ending, because if you see him talk to the person who wants to help like orphans, and I like obviously that is like a thing for him because he like thought back to the grandmother and how she helped him, and he just wants to do that.
Yeah, I think Chi-Pyong's growth, when we were like discussing that earlier, is like, oh, is he gonna find like love beyond romantic love, like family love or whatever? But I think what it ended up being was he needed to find purpose beyond work. So the purpose being that he would now work with youth, you know, in this program in a similar way that he was helped when he was a kid, which is an amazing thing. But like you said, I wish we could have seen that coming to fruition.
They didn't bring that back at the end and like show that he was actually doing that, or show like how he like helped people in any way.
Sure.
And like you would have liked to see like him,
or see him like having satisfaction from doing that.
Or like see him like interacting with a kid who needs help in the way that the grandmother interacted with him. Or something. But yeah, we got like none of that. And like the last we saw of Chi-Pyong was him shaking hands with Tosan and like walking and like when they did the investment thing until like the very end of the episode.
Sure.
So I thought I feel like that character kind of got like the short end of the stick like throughout the whole show.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like the way that they wrote the show was like, he was a super important character to the show, but he never got any sort of like, you get very little satisfaction if you like that character.
I agree.
It was really weird for them to end it like that. Like he didn't, like he got kind of, like I think you're supposed to think he got a happy ending, but you don't know. Especially like when they walk up at the end and he like looks all upset that Tosan and
in the flash forward.
Yeah, the flash forward. Like he looks at his watch. Like I think they were late and he was like, oh my god, they're late again.
It's less about like any kind of dissatisfaction about the couple. I think it's more of just like that's their rapport. Like he's like the older brother. Like, geez, what are these kids doing? Like, and I think that's I found that nice.
Yeah, it was kind of fun because it's like to kind of show you that like things change, but like people don't really change.
Exactly.
Like things change, but they're still the same people.
And there were lots of moments like that in this episode. That's a good transition point. One that is present on my mind is when they see the rainbow. Yeah. And Tommy's talking about like praying to the rainbow and all that. And Tosan's explaining like, oh, there's no logic behind this. And they've had that conversation before. Yeah. The other thing too is when they are praying and Tommy references, oh, trust me, I know this works. I've done it before. Another callback moment was when the stepfather, Injae's stepfather, is giving the presentation. And basically nobody shows up to the presentation because like he's a scumbag and everybody knows it. And then Injae gets to ask him a question, putting him on the spot, like basically calling him out for everything. And that is what happened to Injae at the beginning of the season. Yeah.
And that was good because then Young-san goes back and like apologizes to her for that question because he realizes that he was wrong to have said that. Yeah. And I think obviously the most important thing
Yeah. Oh, Chulsan and Saha.
Chulsan and Saha. We got nothing at the end.
Nothing at the end, which is so upsetting.
Best part of the show.
They were doing so well. I was so happy with how much Chulsan and Saha we were getting and like how much they were putting into that.
Yeah.
And then the end, nothing.
It shows a picture of him with a beanie on where they fake shaved his head.
They could not even really fake shave his head. No cap, no Photoshop, no nothing.
Yeah. And we didn't even get Saha admitting that they were dating. It's just like a picture of them together. Like they should have been married or something.
Yes.
But
anything.
Yeah. But it was a good moment when they sit down and Saha's sister, who turns out to be that weird lady that they like
the fortune teller lady.
Yeah, the fortune teller
And
lady.
we had jokingly said, "There's no way we're ever going to prove this," because we were just walking down the street one day, joking, saying like, "Oh, the fortune teller is going to show up in the last episode."
Yeah, exactly.
And there she is, and she's Saha. Like, what is the point of that?
Yeah,
her being Saha's sister. But that's a nice moment. Bring up her sister when she full out introduces Chulsan as her boyfriend.
Yeah. And it showed him like acting the same way he has always acted, and then she acts like totally out of character, and like does something like nice for him.
Yes.
So that was, I think, a good moment too, and he was like super excited.
Yeah.
And I actually grew to really like that character, Chulsan, over the course of the show.
When this show started, I just thought he was some goofy, lame dude. There's no way. Like, I don't really like characters like that. And he became, like, a favorite character.
Yeah, it turned, in that moment when he told Saha, like, oh, please stop messing with me.
Yes.
Like, his character, like, turned.
Because
into, like,
that shows dimension. Like, he's not just a dummy, like, goofy dude
like,
who's going to, like, hit on the girl. Yeah. He, like, actually has some dimension, has some feelings, and they were willing to go and show that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, did something maybe happen with, like, COVID hitting, like, during production of this show? Like, the way this ended seemed very rushed compared to the rest of the show. Almost like they couldn't shoot everything they wanted to shoot at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could look that up. I feel like the other dramas I've watched, the last episode tends to be like longer sometimes.
Yeah,
like
this is not that.
Yeah, I thought like we were gonna get like a 2-hour episode or something, like something longer. Because a few shows I've watched have done that. And I think this show could have benefited from another like 30 minutes.
I agree.
And just to kind of like tie the loose ends together more, like see how the grandmother's doing at the end. See like it just shows those pictures of everything, the family being together and like all that stuff at their desks. But I would have liked to like see a little bit more.
That's why I'm suspicious if like something happened with production, because it was very odd. The amount of time they spent on certain things throughout the show, and then the amount of time we got for some of these like endings to happen, you know? Very odd. But maybe if you all know something, let us know in a comment.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that really happened was like how they instantly solved the issue with the reporter and like this.
Oh, the beginning of the episode is so unexpected.
Yeah, they just instantly solved the problem.
Yeah, because they already knew. Because we start with like a couple like kind of flashbacks, but also like seeing things we didn't see before. Yeah. They knew who the ransomware attack was. We were right about that too.
Yep.
Amazingly. It was the two twins, and I kind of wish they got a little more punishment.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I guess their punishment is they didn't even make it into the second round, and they did. Mm-hmm. And like this nice new startup did get in, which is amazing. And that's great. They got to stick it to them.
Yeah, and it was the classic thing that this show does, where they introduce a problem and they instantly solve it.
Yes, true. That is very
it's so
characteristic
like
of the show.
exactly what they did in every episode.
Yeah,
it's like every episode had like an issue and they just
they solve
fix it right away.
Because we thought that was going to be the drama for the whole episode. Like it was going to be very dramatic, culminate in their victory. Mm-hmm. But no, it was over in like the first 10 minutes.
And there was pretty much no drama in the episode. It was all just heartfelt, like and tying together all the loose ends.
Which I'm kind of okay with, because despite the fact that I'm complaining about how it didn't kind of wrap up in a very satisfying way towards the end of the episode, most of the episode is you just get to feel good about all these characters that you love, like having victory over things, which is not something I see in a lot of American TV. A lot of American TV would have done the other thing where there's big drama in the last episode and all the characters are solving that big drama, and at the end they have a victory, but you don't really feel satisfied. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy that this was a very happy episode.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
All right, so we want to do one more episode for this season of the K-Drama Club talking about Startup, and we would love to incorporate some of your comments, some of your final thoughts on the show if you've been following along. Any questions, any trivia you can share with us. We're going to do one more episode. So probably a week after we upload this, you'll get one episode. We'll wrap up the entire series. Mm-hmm. So leave your comments on this episode for anything that has to do with the whole show, like comments, trivia, all that good stuff. And we will incorporate the good stuff into our final thoughts video. It should be a fun way to wrap things up. What are your final thoughts on the series in general, just really quick? Maybe in comparison to some other K-dramas you've watched?
I feel like a weight is lifted off my shoulders after watching the show. Like, I just felt very like this show in particular, like, very much bogged me down, like, in a way. I make the joke that watching K-dramas made me believe in love again, but this show did not do that for me.
What? I feel the opposite.
This show did not do that for me. Other K-dramas, I feel much more like...
There's so much love. There's the sister coming back to the family. There's Chulsan and Saha. There's Tosan and Tommy getting together. There's Cheepyong going to do some nice community work. All the love. The mother is back in the family.
I just don't feel as like... I didn't feel as connected to the show as I did to other shows that I've watched.
Oh. So we'll see. We'll talk. We'll talk more about this in our next episode. But thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave comments, trivia, reactions in the comments down below so that we can use them in our final wrap-up episode for Startup. Again, we're looking for a suggestion for another K-drama to watch to do a second season of K-Drama Club. Please leave your suggestions for that in the comments down below as well. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe for more K-drama, K-pop, Korean culture related content. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe.